Is The Lion King remake as bad as the critics say? This summer, it seemed that every week Disney took a look at the box office and said, "Everything the light touches is our kingdom." From Avengers Endgame and Toy Story 4 to multiple live-action remakes like Dumbo and Aladdin to now The Lion King. And while first reactions on social media seem to highlight that the film was a smash and jaw-dropping, the actual reviews are now beginning to pop up online, and they are, in a single word, brutal. So is The Lion King remake as bad as critics are saying? Well, with the film dropping next week in theaters, it's time to break it all down. FYI, we are not going to include a spoiler warning because this film is a remake of The Lion King, which is now 25 years old. So if you haven't seen that, make like Simba and run away and never return. You won't get that reference because you haven't seen it. One of the main critiques of the film across the board is its redundancy. The original Lion King is universally beloved and was a technical feat in its own right. This movie is also an achievement in photorealism, but beyond that, the consensus amongst critics is that it does little to justify its existence. Matt Patches over at Polygon expands on this sentiment, ripping shots, leaning hard on Hans Zimmer's original score, and owing everything to Disney's legacy. The Lion King 2019 is an arrogant successor with no roar. Zazu puts it simply, a rather uninspiring thing. IndieWire's David Ehrlich had even harsher words about the film, writing, "With the possible exception of 2015 Cinderella, which was touched with just enough magic to feel like a new wrinkle on an old fairy tale, all of Disney's live-action rehashes have been faint echoes of their animated predecessors. But The Lion King isn't an echo, it's a stain. This zombified digital clone of the studio's first original cartoon feature is the Disney equivalent of Gus Van Sant's Psycho." And Nerdist Micah Arbiter also highlights the similarities between the films. At some point among an opening montage of jarringly familiar shots of marching elephants and flying water birds, you'll form some kind of relationship with the realization that what you're gearing up for isn't simply affectionate tribute, but deliberate mimicry. Your enjoyment of the film going forward will depend almost entirely on whether that sounds like a nostalgia-enhanced good time or a distracting mistake. Kristen Lopez over at IO9 sums this up succinctly. "The Lion King is extremely gorgeous and worthy of being seen on the biggest screen possible, but like the last few Disney features to come down the pipe, it can't help but feel completely unnecessary." So besides the weird, uncanny valley nature of the remake, what else are critics upset about? Well, a lot of the reviews are pointing to the characterization of the lions as being a hindrance. Matt Singer's piece at Screen Crush illustrates how that impacts the movie. The animals still talk and sing as they did in the original hand-drawn feature from 1994, but now they largely behave like animals in a nature documentary rather than cartoon characters. That limits what they can do on screen and, even worse, limits what they can express in their fuzzy little faces, which remain placid and static no matter the circumstances. Ultimately, Singer sums up the disappointment that these limitations create. The voice actors give big emotional performances that feel totally disconnected from their photoreal yet blank counterparts. Mashable's Angie Han also points out how the lack of emotional resonance in the lions takes a toll on the most devastating moment in the film, Mufasa's death. There's only so far an animator can push a cat's facial or body language before they cease to look believable. So we're left with a serious disconnect in moments like Mufasa's death, where the voice actor's teary panic becomes difficult to reconcile with the dry-eyed, relatively reserved animal that we see on screen. Moving on from the overall look of the film, there were other specific concerns about the new Lion King in regards to how some of the iconic songs were handled, namely, "Be Prepared." Now, what we are about to tell you may be upsetting to some Lion King purists, but according to Micah Arbiter's review, I hate to be the one to break this to you, but "Be Prepared" is limited to a few seconds of spoken word poetry with nary a sachet to speak of. One could say we weren't prepared for this news. Now, Matt Patches was similarly disappointed in his Polygon review. "Be Prepared" is also an unlikely victim, reduced to a rhythmic dialogue reading that sounds like Rex Harrison speak-singing Al Pacino monologues. But did all critics really find this movie to be that bad? Not at all. There were some who were able to find the positives in the film, like Uproxx's Mike Ryan, who highlighted the film's photorealism as a technical achievement. Jon Favreau's reimagining of The Lion King is probably the most visually striking, effects-heavy movie I've ever seen, and it's not even necessarily the main characters that fully achieve that seemingly hyperbolic first sentence, but it's more this all-encompassing world he and his team have created. In addition to the visual accomplishments, multiple critics mentioned the film's voice cast as elevating the material, like Rosie Knight in her review for IGN. Beyoncé is wonderful, if slightly underused, as a passionate and fiery adult Nala, and Donald Glover adds a relatability and thoughtfulness to Simba. The standouts of the cast, though, are Billy Eichner and Seth Rogen as Timon and Pumbaa, respectively. The pair light up every scene they're in with their dedication to doing nothing, their bleak, nihilistic humor, and Eichner's awesome singing voice. Mashable's Angie Han also found the humor in the new Timon and Pumbaa and also praised Beyoncé for, well, being Beyoncé. Speaking of Miss Knowles Carter, that voice cast is top-notch too. She brings soul and depth to Nala. John Oliver sounds like he was born to play Zazu, and Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner damn near steal the whole show as Pumbaa and Timon. However, despite these more positive reviews, The Lion King remake is currently hovering around the 60% mark at Rotten Tomatoes, which is the cutoff line for a film being classified rotten versus fresh. So overall, the latest Disney remake has critics divided, to say the least. We'll just have to wait to find out if audiences agree when the movie hits theaters next week. But what do you folks think? Will you be seeing the new Lion King in theaters? What's your favorite song from the original? And do you think the bugs that Simba eats during Hakuna Matata will be as delicious looking in the new version? Let's discuss. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, why not give us a like and subscribe? If you want to get notified every time we go live with the show or drop a new video, feel free to mash that little bell so that you can be up to date on all the latest theories, news, and rumors in the pop culture world.